Welcome to UVTV, motherfucker. I'm here to kick spiritual ass and dudes for my people. On God. Neon nigga. For feather made yet. And today I'm going to be talking about how monotheism takes your power away from divinity and puts you in a sphere or fear of reality for the most part. And get into the details when it comes to how to look at this from like an overall perspective, right? I stay saying that shit every single video, but looking at shit from like an overall perspective and stuff like that, and how to separate these things so you can actually get to the actual root of your actual natural natures organically and create and cultivate something for yourself instead of getting lost into another being's mind that you look at as like a deity or like a god or something that's broader and more supreme than you, which you can look at it that way from an overall sense, but you're able to take, you know what I'm saying, the natural substance and essence of something compared to getting lost into some type of light or some type of word or some type of language or some type of physical example of how to look at something or one emanation, one vision, one thought, one idea, one type of feeling instead of looking at it from an overall perspective. And you start looking at it like, do I actually think like this? And does this make sense in reality? Or does this one person, place, or thing just in general have this type of perspective and it's being projected onto me and I'm soaking it in and I'm internalizing it instead of making it in a way to where it can apply to everyone in some way, shape, or form, not based upon some type of like subjectivity and stuff like that. AKA, it only works for a certain group of people, but it's not something that's objective. AKA, it's not something that we're experiencing every day. It's only a group of people experiencing that, so that has nothing to do with God for the most part. So, like I just said, from an overall perspective, unless it has something to do with something that's being created that happens every single day, right? Then in some way, shape, and form, is some type of manipulation being involved or something that's going on behind closed doors that we're not seeing, right? Or it's going to add to some type of creativity or cultivated or product of what someone else is trying to sell to you and stuff like that, right? It's the same way how you could look at capitalism and stuff like that. When you be looking at commercials and stuff like that, it's always someone trying to put you in that state of being of I'm trying to sell you something. So that's why someone would go for like brand names or names that are more recognizable compared to something that's like homemade and things of that nature. Even though from that homemade product and stuff like that, it could have been a more better solution of how to go about something, right? That's even better than a brand name, but because it's a brand name and he have all this money and this funding and this marketing and the programs, aka putting it out on TV, putting it in like video games and shit like that, and being referenced and putting your face so much and stuff like that, you think, oh, this is the best product, this is the best thing and stuff like that. But there's a whole industry system and marketing promo campaign or news outlet behind it to make it look like that from a surface level perspective for the most part. So the same thing of the example of how I'm applying right now, you can look at this when it comes to monotheism, right? And motherfuckers looking at things one way, and they trying to make you be into that world, and you get lost into their perspective, their creations of what they made, instead of you making up your own organic, natural way of how you create and your way of looking at it for the most part, and something that can be applied that's more fruitful for the most part. So it's kind of like it only works if you believe whatever thing they selling for the most part, and it only works for the people who is being applied towards. So, aka who are like the consumers, who like the audience and stuff like that. It's like a thing that's only gonna work for a certain group of people. It's not a thing that's gonna work like, oh, this can apply to everybody based upon classism. They can be poor, they can be rich. Oh, this is something that can help everybody. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, now, monotheism in a nutshell, right? When you look at monotheism, monotheism is that belief system, belief, faith, spiritual system, and usually it start going to like religion and stuff like that, right? And I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that. But for the most part, it's that single belief into one God, right? So it's mono, so it's singular. So it's only that one path of how to look at something for the most part, right? But when we actually see in reality and stuff like that, a good example would be like artists and stuff like that, right? There's like we can see there's a mainstream and there's an underground, right? But anybody who's mainstream, right, they're gonna end up being on Billboard based upon their chart system, based upon their A&Rs, their handlers, their managers, their producers and stuff like that, based upon those different labels. And those labels, major labels like UMG and Sony and Warner Bros and stuff like that, they have different subsidiaries. So that's subsets. So that's like if they like the main genre, you have subgenres and stuff like that, right? And there's some people who don't want to be a part of that industry. AKA if it's an industry and stuff like that, it's gonna be like a manufacturing system that people are paying for that are in these people's corporations and their names of how to go about something. But you have underground artists who are more independent, aka they're more underground. So you can look at that as like local businesses and things of that nature, right? And they're trying to do it more organically from their block in their environment and surrounding, instead of feeling like, oh, I need to be backed and supported by these major corporations who are globally known and things of that nature for the most part, right? So based upon that, we can see the culture behind things for the most part. So that's why people be using those type of terminologies and sayings and like metaphors when it comes to like, oh yeah, you're selling your soul into something for the most part. Oh, you went industry. Oh, you went mainstream. Oh, you selling out because of this, that, and the third. AKA, you getting away from the organic, natural ways of how people liked you when you first started doing it. AKA, you did it for the love of the game. You did it for the love of the art and stuff like that. And the minute you want to go get mainstream, that means you want to have some type of money to help support what you're doing for the most part. Even though if you kept doing it independently, organically, you're gonna get money, you're gonna get shows, you're gonna get people who fuck with what you're doing and stuff like that. But people can get lost into the light and the illusion of the monetary gain, aka, oh, I'm end up making like $1 million and stuff like that. And I'm not even trying to say that getting $1 million is bad and stuff like that, but it's all about how it's being sold to you, because not all money is good money. And a lot of time people get put into swindle deals and contracts so they can get taken advantage of, so they can get added on to someone else's vision of business, of how they look at that thing, because all they see is a business aspect. They don't give a fuck about the creativity aspect. So they're more attached to the industry, the cobalt industrial type of mindset instead of the gold mine and the creativity aspects, aka the right brain. They're more left brain for the most part. Now, I'm saying that today from that example, when you have to start looking at God like the same way how y'all be like, oh, this is the supreme being, this is the broader being, this is the overall God, this is like the great spirit, this is like the creator of all things and stuff like that, right? When like it's like that monotheism is going to be a contradiction in itself, because y'all trying to make things singular, but the overall God, aka the overall space, is many different perspectives of how to look at something for the most part. So the same way how you be looking at polytheism and stuff like that, and people be looking at things as multiple different gods and stuff like that, aka the actual overall godly space in itself is a whole bunch of different creators and stuff like that. So that's kind of like how you look at things in the music industry for the most part. There's many different musicians. It's not just one type of musician of how to do about something. There's many different genres. It's not just one genre that's popular and things of that nature, all the way down to pop music and stuff like that. There's still subgenres of that. It's going to be something that appeals to a certain group of people in subcategories based upon who created it in the first place. When you try to push one shape and form of how to look at that thing, that's kind of going to get something for the most part. So it's either going to turn into the people who like that type of music or that type of sound is going to appeal to those type of people, and people are going to naturally gravitate towards it, or you're trying to push a certain sound to make everyone, you know what I'm saying, listen to that shit in their eardrum, and this is the new wave, and this was popular, or this is how you're going to get attention and stuff like that to make people fuck with you and stuff like that. When you could just been doing the shit you was doing in the first place, aka you cultivated your own little style and sound, and people are gonna organically like your way of how you create. They like your way of that product. They like your type of music and shit like that. They like the way you made it originally before a whole bunch of money and all that other stuff that started to get propped up. You part of an industry. They're in that mindset of making money and stuff like that. They're in the mindset of a monetary gain. They're in the mindset of something in the physical and stuff like that. When you be more, oh, okay, I'm gonna make it the way I want to make it, you're not really caring about the physical result. You just want to keep being that state of being, of creating something of what you like to make. You ain't giving a fuck about trying to appeal to everybody. It's either you fuck with my shit or you don't. So it's the same thing with this monotheism, polytheism topic, subject matter I'm trying to talk right now and stuff like that. So from it being that type of mind state of, oh, it's one singular God of how to look at some shit and stuff like that, it's like you're ignoring all possibilities, aka how you should actually look at God. Because the minute you start looking at it in like an Abrahamic or a monotheistic type of way when it comes to God and things of that nature, right? You start getting lost into one shape and form. So it's just taking you further away from the it's literally taking you away from life in general. We see in life is gonna be unpredictable and stuff like that. So that whole shit when motherfuckers be talking about, oh, you control your fate, you control your destiny and stuff like that. The minute it starts turning into, oh yeah, your shit was predetermined, like we on the fucking TV show Loki and stuff like that, and motherfuckers got a fucking intergalactic Marvel timeline. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you supposed to go to the program. Oh, this is like a canon event. Oh yeah, it's predicted to go exactly this type of way and shit like that. And the minute you start breaking out of that shape and form of that program and shit like that, you going against the grain of what was supposed to happen. You going against your fate. You going against your destiny. When it's like nigga, you control that. The minute it starts turning into some like, oh, some pre-constructed type of thing of like, oh yeah, God said it's supposed to go like this. God said it's supposed to go like this. Oh yeah, Jesus said you have to come in this type of shape and form, and that's the only way you're gonna go. That's the only way you're gonna get saved. That's the only way you're gonna make it to heaven. That's the only way you're gonna get into salvation and shit like that. I be looking at all that shit like it's fucking dumb. When you see in real life, it's not that one way of how to go about something. You can look at that same shit when it comes to relationships and stuff like that. We can be in that idealistic, optimistic state of being a mind of like, oh yeah, if I be with this one person, it's gonna last forever and ever and stuff like that. But you see in reality in life, that don't always happen. That don't always happen. You just have to hope for the best type shit. It be some motherfuckers who be in that relationship for 1 year. It be some motherfuckers who stay in it for 5, some for 10, some for fucking like 2 months and shit like that. It was like a fling and things of that nature, right? But you was under the impression or the illusion or the delusion that it was gonna last a certain amount of time and stuff like that. But life you know what I'm saying? It's like a whole bunch of different situations and circumstances and shit like that get shown that it's not always gonna go your way. But the more you're able to roll with the punches and just run with like whatever it's going to, and you stick to the original authentic vision of where you want to go and stuff like that, then you're gonna manifest and materialize situations in your life where it is gonna go your way for the most part. Not everything gonna go your way, bro, and not everything is gonna be a predetermined type thing and stuff like that. You can just hope or have faith for the best of where you actually want to go, and then you actually start walking with God, aka all possibilities, motherfucker. It's not just one shape or form of how to go into that like situation, not one shape or form of how you can look at that thought, not one shape or form of how you can look at that emotion. It's a spectrum, it's broad, it's not just that one way of how you go about shit and stuff like that. So when you be in that equilibrium space of not overly like overwhelming yourself type shit. Like you're not overwhelming yourself of like trying to understand every single thing so you can try to schedule it and make up some type of logical mathematical proportion method so you can account for every single detail, every single, you know what I'm saying? Like try to compartmentalize and schedule and routine and stuff like that and try to find every pattern and stuff like, you know, y'all know that shit not possible. Like you know that's not possible to do that. It's better when you just roll with shit. Like, oh, you in that equilibrium space, so you're not trying to overwhelm yourself, aka you're not gonna take the call to action or put yourself in a situation to where your dreams can actually come true because you're getting so overwhelmed by so many different factors, but you're not also underwhelming it either, aka you sit on your ass, you being lazy, or you goddamn, you barely even have a new type of fruit. You barely even have a new type of broad ideas, broad emotions and stuff like that. Trying to have more experiences in your life and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You just think, oh yeah, I just live this one life and then that's it. Type shit. The more you in that equilibrium space to where you have you're not in that space of lacking, but you're not also in that space of being overwhelmed. You start being that middle ground of like, okay, sometimes I'm gonna go through the ups and downs. Sometimes I'm gonna have my high moments. Sometimes I'm gonna have my low moments. But end of the day, I'm still focused on the overall vision of where the fuck I want to direct and where the fuck I want to go. And that's when you start actually walking with all possibility. You start walking with God because it don't matter what circumstance, what situation, what goddamn just in general, like whatever gets thrown at you, you just gonna roll with it. You gonna try to make that shit work. You gonna try to utilize and take and make life like your bitch and make that shit just go. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, whether the lack of, whether you do have the resources or not, you like, man, this how I look at it, this how I'm gonna do it, and this how I'm gonna go about it, and things of that nature. So it's gonna put you in that creative state of being of trying to cultivate and create something for yourself and have your own perspective of how you can look at it, and then that's how God can work through you faster compared to somebody else, for the most part. So to other motherfuckers, it's gonna be looking like you taking a shortcut, but you're not really taking a shortcut type shit. You actually being used as a vessel based upon your divine natures, the divine feminine, divine masculine, divinity, and things of that nature, right? So that's why I'm saying when it comes to monotheism and shit like that, is take your power away from doing that, and then it puts you in this fear or fear of reality. Okay, that's like programming somebody. That's like fear mongering shit like that. And a lot of those seeds got planted based upon early Christianity and things of that nature, right? Like words with the ity or like the isms and shit like that, right? Look at that as if like those words, like I just said. So there's a lot of different isms. You have theism, you have atheism and shit like that, right? You have deism and shit like that. And then there's a lot of atees and shit like that. You have reality. You have a quality of some shit. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different words with those words at the end of them and shit like that. So they're like a what they call that shit? It's like a suffix. Yeah. Like there's a lot of words with those suffixes and shit. So like that, like words like that, like isms or ities and shit like that, these are like different entities for the most part. So look at that to make it make sense, to make it more simple. Look at someone who is probably named Ism one day, like someone who was walking the earth and shit like that, and that human was named Ism. And then however this person Ism lived their life, a lot of people was following the way that person, aka the person named Ism in general, looked at life and stuff like that, and they start writing that shit down. They start studying it. You know what I'm saying? They'll make a whole cult or religion out of it and stuff like that. They look at that shit as like sacred, of like the way this person lived their life and shit like that. Oh, we gotta document this shit, make a documentary and all that type shit. And you know what I'm saying? We gotta look at this person as an example of how to walk divinely and shit like that. Well, like that's the way like people will look at it. So when it comes to motherfuckers specifically and monotheism, right? That's like an offspring of a motherfucker who's probably named Ism and shit like that. I'm not trying to say like that actually happened in reality. I'm trying to say you have to look at it more like that. Like whoever was the walking emanation of what we call an Ism, monotheism is an offspring of Ism type shit. So from it being an offspring and stuff like that, is you taking that original source of idea, aka the motherfucking name ism, and you turned it into monotheism, aka you have it became like a son or like a daughter of men type shit. So literally, like it's the same shit that motherfuckers be talking about in the Bible and stuff like that, right? Where from it being an offspring, it was trying to understand the teachings of ism, and from it taking those teachings, it came up with its own perspective called monotheism. So when you look at monotheism, it was a motherfucker who was in the brain or the teachings and the philosophical point of view of a motherfucker who was called ism, the thought and idea of how that motherfucker lived his life and was doing it so much to where it became like an offspring and they had their own subjective point of view of ism. So the way ism lived, okay, I'm gonna do something like that and call it monotheism. And the way I look at God and shit like that, right? I look at it like, oh, there's only one God. AKA, this could have been like a real, like the motherfucker who call like monotheism and shit like that. That's like a motherfucker who like selfish as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like the way they think real singular type shit. They think real like, oh, it's only one path. You know what I'm saying? It's like real tunnel vision. It's not like trying to understand like things from a broad perspective. They understanding things from like a singular way. Like, oh yeah, it's only this way. It's either my way or the highway. Literally like that. So in general, so anyone who's in that state of being, that mind state of being in monotheism, that's the type of mind you're creating for yourself. That's the type of state of being you creating for yourself. You think in a real one-track mind way. You don't think in a broad sense. You only think in that one way, your way or the highway. Literally, you went to live and die on that shit. Like only that, like that one way of how to look at the world for the most part. And you following the monotheism spirit and stuff like that. You following the monotheism idea in thought forms. And then eventually, right, based upon that monotheism, that's when Abrahamic religion started getting created, like Judaism and Islam and Christianity and stuff like that. But mainly Christianity that I'm focusing on at the moment, right? And based upon that theological monotheism and shit like that, it's that one singular God, one single way of how they look at the world, aka look at that way of how to live life, and thinking you're gonna get divinity and be attached to like the overall God in a supreme being. The way they looking at it, they follow that monotheism spirit and following its theories, its studies, its doctrines for one group of people. That's how one group of people look at shit. So they look at it like, oh, I'm getting closer to God. But at the same time, from them being that selfish state of being and that judgmental state of being, right, you're really trying to play God. You're not trying to, like, you know what I'm saying? You're not actually having access to God like that. You're trying to play God, aka the way how people look at God, like in actuality and reality and stuff like that. You're trying to play that role, and you're doing that being in a human vessel right now and shit on earth right now. You're trying to play that role of being God. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to make like a study or like a doctrine of how to look at that shit. So that's when, you know what I'm saying, a lot of holy books or their sacred books start getting created and shit like that. So like the Bible, or how we look at the Pope and shit like that, or the Torah and the Quran and all that type shit. So based upon them making these doctrines and coming through things when it comes to you know what I'm saying, coming through like this one reality with the word and shit like that, and left brain likes and illusions like logic and a pattern and rationalizing and thought forms and shit like that, right? It's them added on to that original starting point of trying to play that role in the physical, aka you look at them like they God instead of following some overall God. You know what I'm saying? You look to them for divination instead of making your own way of how you look at your own divine natures and being a divination and shit like that. So instead of creating like your own methods of how to get there, you only gonna get lost into the methods they created into their mind, and then it only leads into what I was saying earlier, some type of selfish, singular, judgmental state of being based upon monotheism in that singular way. They want you to look at it in that one way of how to look at it for the most part, because they're trying to play that role in the physical on earth and shit like that, using theories, studies, and doctrines, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the way they look at their holy books and stuff like that. So from you getting indoctrinated and shit like that, like you know what I'm saying? That's literally you being indoctrinated like in real time right there. Like the way I just broke that shit down. You get lost into their theories, their studies, and their doctrines from what they learned from other motherfuckers by sitting there watching and observing them and trying to make sense out of what the fuck they was doing for the most part. The same way how, you know what I'm saying? How people was looking at Jesus' miracles and stuff like that, like, you know what I'm saying, like the shit they be talking about in the Bible and stuff like that, or how the Pharisees would look at Jesus and shit like that. It's the same thing. They're just trying to understand the theories and the studies and the doctrines, and, you know what I mean, not making doctrines, but like trying to like study and write that shit down of like what the fuck is making this motherfucker tick? What the fuck is making this motherfucker be in that type of state of being, that mind state, to make him perform these supernatural miracles and shit like that? That's basically all they doing for the most part, right? And then you're getting indoctrinated by trying to read their doctrine, Because that's literally what the definition of being indoctrinated is. You get lost into a doctrine. You get lost into a book. You know what I'm saying? You get lost into words and shit like that. Yeah, you can utilize words as a tool so it can make it easier for us to understand each other, but we have a lot of different languages. We have a lot of different thought forms. We have a lot of different feelings. We have a lot of different experiences. We have a lot of different words to describe shit for the most part. And then people create different body languages, create different languages, create different words, create different ways how to look at stuff, create different experiences and stuff like that. So what make you think you just gonna be able to know someone's whole life story, but you not them? You not, you know what I'm saying? You probably observing at a certain point of what the fuck they doing, but you wasn't there with them their whole life of how they look at that shit. And then when they created that language, when they created that word, when they created that perspective, when they created that knowledge, when they created that wisdom that works for them, it may not work for you the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's good for you may be bad for someone else, and then what's bad for you could be good for somebody else. So it's the same thing. So is y'all trying to make a doctrine, y'all trying to make a study out of it so you can apply that to reality in some way, shape, and form, and then you try to like self-project, oh, you feel like everyone else should study this one way of how you should be looking at the world and stuff like that, when we know in reality, based upon us having our own individuality, us having our own mind, not all of us gonna look at it that way. like that. So yeah, that's what sums up and makes up objective points of views and stuff like that. It's a whole bunch of different perspectives and subjectivity. You can't make an objective without understanding a whole bunch of subjectivity and stuff like that. AKA, it's gonna take a whole bunch of different thoughts, a whole bunch of different feelings, and then you're gonna apply that to the actual society and the world and shit like that. Okay, we need a whole bunch of different people. We need a whole bunch of different cultures and stuff like that. And then with some cultures that work for them, and then for other cultures it don't. So then it starts turning into, okay, make it self-operating and things of that nature. What is something that can apply to everybody based upon everyday jobs that people are in need for, that people, you know what I'm saying? Like, what can actually help motherfuckers to help them be of service, to help everybody, instead of it being in a selfish point of view, aka it's only going to help yourself, aka that's like you being an ego. So from you being an ego, you just thinking about yourself, so you thinking more singular. So from you being that state of being, it leads to motherfuckers who be following monotheism and stuff like that. You getting lost in their nutsack of their ego, of their singular mind, of their sub-projection of how they study and theorize, and their doctrine of what the fuck they wrote down of how they want people to be like, from studying other people's perspectives and subjectivity and try to make objective point of view out of it and stuff like that, and project it onto you like, oh yeah, this is like the only holy sacred way of how to get access to the shit, and this is the only way how we look at some shit divine, because this is our way of being supreme over y'all, even though that's not really being supreme for real, because you have to force something instead of it being organic and natural. If it was organic and natural, and then people naturally gravitate towards that shit, you wouldn't need all that other programming, you wouldn't need all that you know what I'm saying, you wouldn't need a fucking marketing scheme or observable event or propaganda to make people think like that. It's just people naturally gravitate towards that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh God. So at that point, it's gonna be some get down, lay down type energy. You have no choice but to fearmonger. You have no choice but to do it by force. You have no choice but to be on some join or die type of mentality and stuff like that to make a motherfucker like go with the program and like literally go with the program of the program you trying to make another motherfucker think. You trying to force someone to think a certain way when in reality you can't do that. Yeah, you could probably manipulate. You can have an alternative motive. You can, you know what I'm saying? Like you can fearmonger a motherfucker, but like the minute someone starts seeing through your method and your fear tactics and shit like that, that whole shit gonna go away. It's gonna wash away. It's just gonna look like, oh, you just a bitch ass nigga. At that point, niggas gonna be like, you a bitch ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You have validation issues and shit like that, like all type of shit. I'm gonna end up getting into a different nuance I don't want to get into, but like, yeah, y'all get what the fuck I'm trying to say. So yeah, like before a lot of these monotheistic types of ways of thinking in religions and things of that nature, when it comes to being part of your divine natures and stuff like that, right? Before all that even became a thing, before that it was like way more polytheistic for the most part. And I'm not even trying to sit there and be like, oh yeah, you're supposed to believe into some polytheistic type of shit, and like polytheism, well, at least the way they talk about it on the internet, or just in general and stuff like that, right? It was way more natural. It was way more about like, oh, you can find divinity in life in general. You can find divinity in everything. You know what I'm saying? You can find inspiration in everything. You know what I'm saying? Like it was way more spiritual and shit like that. People would find that alignment when it came to rivers or like the stars or like, you know what I'm saying? Like the animals, the bugs, the plants, like humanity and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it was way more broad instead of one single way of how to look at something. Then it started turning into, oh yeah, you can only do that based upon some type of like revelation or you know what I'm saying, the shit that they be talking about in the fucking Bible and stuff like that. You can only find it through sacrament, or you can only find it through some type of ritual and spell that's like that was like something that occurred in one of these monotheism books and shit like that, or like some divine revelation and shit like that, and you have to find your power and ability through fucking like Jesus Christ and all that type shit and all that type of terminology. I'm gonna get to that though. I'm gonna get to that. So to make it like really, really simple, it's not them like trying to make you have some type of transcendent experience, divinity, divine nature, to actually be in contact with God and your actual ancestors and stuff like that, and actually be on like some spiritual shit, aka like the space that you in, and in your individual space, aka something that can actually help your soul, is to give your power away to the way they look at your spirit, the way they look at your soul, and their methods of how they do that. And it's only going to turn into like some type of fear mongering or manipulation or getting in over on somebody, or it's got to come through some type of language or some type of word and shit like that to like make you make a whole bunch of missteps and look at something from a certain point of view, so you can't create your own way of how to look at the world that you're in right now, for the most part. All the way down to how to be talking about God, because they look at God like a deity, aka from them looking at God like a deity, you're going to look at it like a demon, nigga. You know what I'm saying? At that point, like from them calling like God like a deity or like a supreme being, God, like the actual overall God, it don't like being talked about that way, because God is just all possibilities. It don't get stuck into one shape and form. There's many different ways on how to create something for yourself, for the most part, right? So when you get lost into that shape and form of looking at it like it's a deity and you gotta worship that thing, right? Because there's a huge difference. It's one thing if you worship in something. It's one thing if you just give praise to something. You know what I'm saying? You just giving praise and you giving what's the fucking word, bro? What's the word? I can't think of the fucking word, but it's like, yeah, like there's like worshiping something and looking at something like it's a god, aka, you know what I'm saying? You looking at it like it's a deity, so you looking at it like a demon, because only a demon like being called God, aka it came in a name. You're calling it God. Like I get the point of which y'all be trying to say, oh wait, what the fuck? Like y'all use that God terminology for, because y'all just trying to make up a word to call that great spirit overall being. You know what I'm saying? Like that the overall creator. I get that point, but I'm saying like these like people who be in this state of being when it comes to a lot of religions and stuff like that, especially monotheism and Abrahamic religions, and how they look at it and how they look at it, they just look at God like a deity. You know what I'm saying? That they want to worship. So from you worshiping it, you just giving your power away instead of giving some type of like praise or like respect. The same way how like you respect or you give praise to your parents because they birthed you into this existence and stuff like that. It's the same thing. There's a difference between, oh, you worship your mama, you worship your daddy, compared to, oh, I give praise to my ancestors. I respect my ancestors. I respect my mama. I respect my father. You get what I'm saying? There's a difference. They want you to be in that, oh, holy, oh, give goddamn, like, give all your power away, like, give all your worship and shit like that, and look at that shit like it's a deity, and this is the only way we can be saved and redeemed and into salvation. This is the only way we're going to be, this is the only way we're going to be a part of heavens. This is the only way we're going to be a part of the atmosphere. This is the only way we all going to become suns and stars and shit like that, like, yeah. So for the most part, it's really just creating like a little sweet spot, a little pocket of hell for from y'all keep on adding on to that one shape and form reality and stuff like that, and you getting lost into indoctrinations, or y'all getting lost into the word or shit and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they say that shit in the Bible too, like, oh, don't be lost into the word or shit because of this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, bro, it's like is y'all getting like all conflicting, confusing, or left and right brain and shit like that, all the way down to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit and shit like that. AKA, they don't look at like, oh yeah, it's like, bro, like it's like that whole it's that whole like Trinity shit, like that Trinity shit, and everything comes in the threes, even though they just talking about multi-dimensional type of shit. So the 369, all that type shit, you know what I'm saying? That's really what they talking about for the most part. But it's like, yeah, so they'll be like, oh yeah, God is the Father, and God is the Son, and God is also the Holy Spirit too, and shit like that. It's multi-dimensional and shit like that, aka from them trying to make you look at God like the Father. Oh, God is the farthest light, aka going the distance when it comes to something, and then God is the Son, aka Christ the Son of God, and then Jesus came into existence and started walking the earth and walking on water and stuff like that. When the whole shit is allegorical. The whole shit is allegorical. All the men in the Bible is talking about a certain thought and idea that someone was in, or like specifically a masculine thought and idea. And then all the women in the Bible, they're talking about a feminine emotion and feeling, for the most part, right? So like I just said, all the way down to Jesus Christ and being the Son of God, aka, you know what I'm saying? It's a son of the original thought. It's the son, walking emanation of an original thought and idea of how they be looking at God, for the most part. And the Holy Spirit is just their sacred spirit / space of being an advocate for their God, for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So you talking about the Holy Spirit, you talking about some type of sacred space, some type of sacred spirit. They want you to worship their God in spirit. They don't actually want you to do some shit like that in reality and stuff like that, because they hold God in a nutshell, from any monotheism, it has something to do with worshiping something in a physical. So you get trapped in some type of shape and form. So you're only gonna make a hell for yourself, because you see in life in general, when you actually create something, it's not just one way of how to do something. It's not one way of how to make a product and stuff like that. It's not one way of providing it. You're able to do it in a multitude of ways, not one single way of how to look at something. So literally, it just makes you have a whole bunch of thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and apply your individuality and take your power away into their version of what that is. So it makes you look at something outside yourself and make you feel like it's out of reach. AKA, it's kind of like, yeah, it's like what I just said. It's gonna make you it's gonna put your spirit in a space, right? Your individuality in a space to where you're doing something in spirit. AKA, look at that as someone who has like a whole bunch of like goals and stuff like that, right? So they have a certain dream or imagination that they, you know what I'm saying? They have like passions, they have motivations, they have aspirations they want to actually do in life and stuff like that. And let's say they have like big ideas and stuff like that that requires like $1 million, or like they was able to create something that's new into existence, and shit like that, like some type of new discovery based upon what they're into for the most part. But from them giving their power away, you're just gonna give your power away to something that you believe in spirit, and you're just gonna extend that state of being. You're just gonna extend that space even further and stuff like that. So you're never gonna do something in reality, aka you're never gonna psych yourself up to actually accomplish your dreams. You're never gonna do something to actually manifest and materialize like some type of creation that you want to make. You're always gonna give it away to something that someone else created, because you're getting lost into their mind. You're getting lost into their creations. You're getting lost into their nutsack, like literally, and you're just gonna be an offspring of what some other motherfucker done did already. You ain't trying to make your own way of how you do it and stuff like that, right? So you're never gonna be in that overall state of being of walking with God or walking in divinity and stuff like that, because you be thinking, oh, there's no way I should be able to, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this for myself and stuff like that. So I'd rather give credence to someone else doing it for me. So you always gonna be in that state of being of other, like, you know what I'm saying, people, places, and things, living out your dreams, living out the things you actually want to live for real in the physical and stuff like that. You're never gonna psych your mind up to put yourself in the spirit, aka that breath of life, that birth, or create for yourself that inspiration to do it yourself. It's always going to be a whole bunch of different examples of someone else being in your position that you feel like you should be in and stuff like that. And you're going to get old and shit like that. And then you're going to be feeling like you're wasting your life away and stuff like that. You're going to feel unaccomplished and stuff like that. Because that's all it does. It just puts you in a sphere or field of reality that takes your power away to make you not want to create and cultivate something for yourself, because you feel like you can't save yourself. You feel like, oh, I need some other person, place, a thing outside myself to take care of it and shit like that, and not be used as a vessel to make it so you can actually like do it yourself for real and stuff like that. Like you don't have these natural abilities and talents, and you know what I'm saying? Like you're able to will these things into existence and shit like that. Like dead ass. Like literally, it's literally just that though. So like it's not you taking spiritual authority for your space of what you want to create for yourself. You're just giving other people permission to authorize how you want to live your life, like dead ass, and how you want to look at shit for the most part. It's gonna just make you in a real degenerative worshiping, looking at something like look at like take you so far away like from like the overall God, and look at God like a deity, and only a demon like being called God. Only a demon like being in that deity type of space to where they feel like they authorizing and they judging and they taking over, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like, yes, bro, like it's just super counterproductive. Like it's just gonna get real degenerate after a while and stuff like that. It just get real like depressing and shit. But for the most part, yeah, a lot of these things are allegorical, and you can be these walking emanations of these inspiring thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and make your own individuality of how to, you know what I'm saying, put your blood, sweat, and tears and your soul into these things to manifest and materialize what you actually want to create and live your life as, right? And from like the more and more you push yourself in that more creative, productive, imaginative state of being and shit like that, and you want to die and fight for that, to even play out these visions, to actualize your potential and stuff like that, even if you don't get to live it out in this lifetime and this mind and body and stuff like that, because you know what I'm saying, we live in two different bodies. We have the physical body we in right now, we have our light body. Our light body is just our mind and stuff like that, but the spirit is always going to be a thing. It's always going to be expanding, it's all going to be expanding and contracting. So the more you try to expand and contract physically, you're going to expand and contract your mind, and then you're going to expand and contract your spirit and stuff like that, aka the spatial wind, aka you're going to be able to soak in a whole bunch of different abilities and things you're able to do, and talents and gifts and things of that nature from every single lifetime, aka incarnations, and well, carnation, incarnation, and reincarnations that you come into and stuff like that. So it gives you more of an ability, or more of a wise, or more of a broad knowledge of how to look at shit, because you didn't get too stuck in a pocket of hell, You didn't get too stuck into one shape or form. You didn't get too lost into someone else's mind and someone else's creation. You didn't get too lost into this shape or form of the world and stuff like that, aka some physical world, monetary gain. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't get lost into your lower animalistic natures and stuff like that. You was able to align all your chakras. You was able to align all your ways of how you look at life. Align your imagination and your creativity and your productivity to actually make something of yourself. And you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just gonna put you more in a perspective to die with a smile instead of dying and putting the hands of these things into something like like physical examples, like something outside yourself. So eventually, just gonna turn into your soul is gonna define your body, not your body in the material, in the physical shape and form, or some like one type of way to look at your thoughts and thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions. Um, yeah, it's gonna make it so your soul defines your body, not your body defining your soul type shit. So it's always gonna be a spectrum. It's always gonna be more broad. It's always gonna be, you know what I'm saying? Like it's always gonna be light, like light as in weight. So it wasn't heavyweight. AKA you didn't let all those experiences, you didn't let this shape and form kind of define you as a person and stuff like that. And then based upon your individual space, aka your soul, and the way you reacted and responded to the overall space, aka the Great Spirit or the overall God, aka a whole bunch of different spaces, and you was able to add your Venn diagram into that, you end up attracting your actual ancestors and your spiritual family, aka people who look at the world the same way you look at the world. So the way you create and the way you produce and the way you you know what I'm saying? Like you should really just be stuck into like your culture that started from the original starting point of who made it in the first place, and stick to your people of y'all perspective of how y'all look at shit, and then y'all just add on, y'all build and shit like that, instead of it turn into a thing to where it's like you start looking at other people who ain't a part of your culture or ain't a part of your people. And the only time it should even turn into a thing to where you have to do something like that, it is based upon like some type of monetary gain or like business deal and stuff like that, or you making yourself of service of people who don't understand and willing to learn for the most part. So yeah, that's how you can learn the overall state of being of like, you know what I'm saying, to like actually give yourself access to overall knowledge and wisdom and shit like that, and how you can piece these things together of how these things be taking your power away from divinity and put you in a sphere reality when it comes to Abraham religions or monotheism, and getting lost into someone else's nutsack, someone else's mind, some motherfucker trying to be the Jesuit Zeus face, white face in the sky and shit like that, and trying to be a supreme being and stuff like that, and a motherfucker trying to self-project their goddamn demonic natures, and then a lot of motherfuckers be wanting to kill, steal, and will all these things to make it so you don't look at it no other way type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like you can get caught up in that shit for real. But yeah.